Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? Are you well? Are you excited? We look it. There's a very select group here, and I should just warn you that it will be an interactive session, so if you want to leg it, then go and leg it now. No, only joking. I want to just talk about being an unnatural networker and being networking in general. Who here thinks that they are a good networker? No one going to put their hands up? Who thinks they're an unnatural networker? Who is the most unnatural networker here? Anyone going to claim it? I'm going to claim it because it's definitely me. Here's the thing. Networking is something that I do for a living. I run a networking organisation called BNI. We help small businesses to grow, and we do it through networking. The funny thing is, I run that organisation, but I don't really like networking, which may seem strange. I find networking quite tough. I find it quite hard. You saw all the signs just when I was there, just waiting to start the presentation. I was standing there looking awkwardly, and I could have been coming to talk to you and networking with you. I didn't do it. I'm not very comfortable networking. I don't find it easy to do. Here's the thing. There's a lot you can learn about networking. There's a few simple tricks and tips you can put in place to really help your business grow through networking. And it's just about having perhaps the confidence to get on and do it. So the first question is, what is networking? Let's just ask that question first. What is networking as a whole? If you've got a pen, write down what you think networking is. Take 20 seconds, write down what you think networking is. Whether you've written something down or you haven't, how about chat with your next door neighbour and see if they think networking's the same? What do you think networking is? Because I bet you my description of networking is different from what you've got written down on your piece of paper. We shall soon find out. Come on then, what do you think networking is? Communicating with other people. I'd say that's part of networking, yeah, definitely. What else? What do you think networking is? Getting to know people, fair enough. What have you written down? Getting connections, fair enough. Anyone different to that? I think all of those are fair enough descriptions of the word networking. Now here's my description of networking, okay? I'd like you to imagine for me a fishing boat. Can you picture a fishing boat in the North Sea perhaps, and it's pulling in its haul of fish. It's pulling out this huge net, bulging net of fish, and it's coming out of the water, and as it comes out of the water's dripping down, dripping down, dripping down, off at the bottom into a steaming hot cup of coffee. What the hell am I on about? I'm sure you're thinking right now. But that's what I think networking is, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So what does the fisherman want to find in his net? There's probably three things he's going to find in his net. Number one thing he really wants to find is big fish, because they're the ones that are going to sell for the most. They're the valuable ones that are going to sell when he goes and sells them at the market. Okay? Networking is just the same. You go to a networking event. Hey, you come to an event like this. There are going to be people here who are big fish for your business. They might be people who turned into good clients. There might be people who have access to a good range of clients that would be of interest to you. There might be people you can tie up with in a strategic a relationship of some kind. There are people who are going to move your business forward. That's the first type of person. Second type of person, or second thing that the fisherman finds is going to be small fish. You know, there's going to, for every big fish there's going to be a whole bunch of small fish. And it's the same at a networking event. You're going to find people who are just people. They're good contacts. You know, you might be of use to in some way. You might add them to your LinkedIn connections. You might, talk to them in some way. They might help you out in some way. But they're not people who are going to really move your business forward. There's a third thing that the fisherman will typically find in his net as well, which is what? Rubbish, yeah. The proverbial Wellington boot, or the shopping trolley, or whatever it might be. But you find them at a networking event too. The shopping trolley is worth absolutely nothing to the fisherman. At a networking event, you'll find people who are not going to help you with your business's journey. You know, there's going to be people who are tripping over themselves to get to the buffet. There's going to be people who are just boring you senseless with their life story. I'm sure you'll have come across this. The way you're smiling right now suggests you've definitely come across that. It happens at a networking event. You get people who, they're not going to really be much use to anyone. Okay? You get the people, this is the worst one, people who, when you're chatting to them, are looking over your shoulder for someone more interesting to talk to. You'll get these people at network events. That happens. So back to the definition, and probably the weirdest part of my fishing net analogy. You've got the fishing net coming out of the water. Now I said, what was it coming into? The water was dripping into a steaming hot cup of coffee. This is really what networking is all about. A lot of people feel that, and perhaps don't go networking, because they feel it's about trying to sell their products, trying to sell their services. Who has ever been to a networking event and someone's tried to sell something to them, or tried to push something on them? Most of us have. Even if they're not trying to sell to it, they're trying to give us your business card and you don't really want it. You know, you've seen that happens. The thing is, if we go to a networking event trying to sell something, it's doomed to failure. I'll tell you a quick story about a networking event we went to recently in Croydon. Early morning networking event. It was probably about 10 to 7 in the morning. It was really early. And this guy comes up to me, I virtually just got there, just having a cup of coffee, just kind of waking up. And this guy comes up to me, shakes me enthusiastically by my hand and said, right, you've got to have this combined domestic fire and security system. It's yours today for the one-off price of £199.99. And I was like, chill out. I don't want to buy now. It's 6:45 in the morning. I'm not going to do that, even if I was half awake. I'm not. It's not going to happen. Here's the thing. If you go to a networking event with the intent of selling anything, you're doomed to failure because no one ever goes to a networking event intending to buy something. So there's no point trying to sell something. So there's got to be something different that comes from it. What's the point of networking? What is networking? Networking is purely and simply building relationships with people. Building relationships with people, talking to people, chatting to them, understanding them, finding out about them, seeing if there's common synergies between the pair of you. That's all it is. So, back to that fishing net analogy and the coffee cup. What it's really about is finding those big fish, the ones that are really going to move your business forward, and then seeing if you can arrange to have a cup of coffee with them. That's what networking is. And networking continues when you sit down and have that cup of coffee. A lot of people think that networking is only ever going to be at a big event with lots of people. But no, it's not like that. Having a drink with someone, having a coffee with someone, having some lunch with someone, that's networking too. Because guess what? We're building relationships. Okay? So, forget selling. Think about building relationships. That's really the key message when it comes to it. And I think that's something for me as a distinctly unnatural networker I needed to get my head round. I'll give you a reason why I really am an unnatural networker. When I was first starting out in my career after university, it was a temping job, and I worked in a company in central London. It was a wine company. They did education on wine, and very boring job, to be quite honest. But whenever we went to one of the do's that the company put on, it may have been something to do with the fact that it was a wine company, so there was always wine involved in it. But there was one of my colleagues, a lady called Nicola, who I just thought was just the ultimate networker. And whenever we were at one of these do's, she'd be there and she'd just be literally shaking hands, talking to everyone. And when you were sort of talking about it the next day or afterwards, she'd be like, oh, did you talk to that guy? Did you talk to that guy? Did you talk to that person? And I was like, no, I don't know how you did it. Honestly, that just completely freaked me out in terms of that's what I thought networking was. I thought that networking, you had to go and get round to talk to everyone. You had to just sell your product to everyone, and it really isn't like that. I've done quite a lot of research on introverts and extroverts, and Nicola's character, she was definitely more extroverted. It enabled her to go and talk to people in a room very easily. I'm not like that. I'm much more introverted. I find it I'd rather have the security of my own company or the company of people I know well, my friends and so on. I was at an old school friend's wedding not that long ago. Really good friend. There's a group of us who are all mates, and there's various partners and kids involved now as well. But at that wedding, I didn't really touch base with anyone. I didn't talk to anyone else apart from my close circle of friends because I didn't want to. And that's at a wedding where everyone knows, the bride and groom. You've all got a connection. You've got a reason to talk to people. I couldn't do it. I just wanted to chat to my mates. And I don't know, a lot of people feel like that. It's a slight sense of introversion, a slight feeling of feeling more comfortable when talking to someone. But here's the thing. That having that slightly introverted sense to you can actually make you a more effective networker. You might think that the extrovert who gets around and talks to everyone's going to be more effective. But let's face it, if you've only got a set amount of time to talk to the 50 people or how many people there are in the room, how much time are you actually going to spend with each person? It's going to be limited. You're only going to be able to have, the absolute basics of small talk before you have to move on and talk to the next person. If you're a bit more introverted, like myself, you'll get into a conversation, and then it's a real bind to actually, and you really don't want to tear yourself out of that conversation and go and talk to someone else. I'm now in my comfort zone because I'm just chatting to someone. The very thought of going off to talk to someone else, that scares me. That freaks me out. So I'd rather sit and talk to this person, whoever it is I'm talking to. But what happens when you carry on talking to them? You get to know them a bit more. You get beyond just the basic small talk, and you get into the more interesting stuff. You find out about them. So you start to build a relationship. So actually being a bit more introverted doesn't mean you're a worse networker. You're a different networker, sure, but it doesn't mean you're worse, okay? So that's networking. What I wanted to do is perhaps give you a few tips, just 3 or 4 tips that will really perhaps make it a bit easier to go networking. And if you can put these into place, I'm really putting these from the context of an unnatural networker. And believe me, I really am the ultimate unnatural networker. I would happily avoid talking to anyone if I possibly could. But if I give you these just few tips, these are little things you can do that will make a difference to your networking. And if you can make networking work for you, you're going to get more business for your company. So, first one is set goals. Set a goal for what you want to achieve by going to any given event. Set a goal for whatever you want to achieve by going, your networking in a calendar year. Let's talk about it from the perspective of going to one particular event. I used to think that a good goal would be, well, I've got to go and sell 5 bits of business. I've got to go and sign up 5 new customers at any given networking event. Now, we've already seen that doesn't work because you can't sell at a networking event. There's no point, okay? So that's out as a goal. I then used to think, well, okay, I accept I can't sell to them, but at least maybe I can set up some follow-up meetings where I do get the chance to, sit down properly and take someone through my product. But that doesn't work either, because let's face it, you just don't know who you're going to meet at a networking event. You don't know if the people you're going to meet are potential clients of yours. You don't know if the people are going to be able to, who even want your product or service. So you can't set yourself a goal of saying, right, I'm going to try and meet 5 people or 10 people, or how many you want to meet, who I'm going to set for a follow-up meeting. Here's the goal I always set. I set a goal to say, I'm going to go and meet 10 new people. I'm going to meet 20 new people, 5 new people, whatever number it is, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go and set a goal to go and meet 10 new people. And that's it. And it may seem a very simplistic goal. It may think, well, is that really going to do anything? But actually, when you're an unnatural networker, you just need to get out the door and go networking. And I tell you what, I really have found that just having a goal like that means it's easier to get out the door and actually just do it in the first place. Set yourself a simple goal like that. It's got to be all the standard. I'm not going to talk about goal setting as a principle here, but you've got to be a smart goal. It's got to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, and all that sort of thing. Just set yourself a goal of the number of people you want to meet. Makes a big difference. That's the first one. Second one, look for body language. Here's the big thing that when most people picture the scene. You've just walked into a big networking event. There's 150 people networking. There's a big hubbub of noise and lots of people there talking. How are you feeling as you walk through that door? That facial expression says you're not very comfortable. You're exactly like me, an unnatural networker to the core. Yeah, it's honestly terrifying. Terrifying. I'll tell you a true story. I published this book, The Unnatural Networker, recently. I had the book launch recently. And at my own book launch, which we held in the premises of my office, I was upstairs and there's a big room downstairs. We were doing the book launch and there was wine and canapes and people coming. I was the last person to show up for my own book launch because I'd rather have stayed upstairs and not gone networking. So it's exactly the same for me. I know exactly that feeling. You walk through the door and you're just thinking, who am I going to speak to? But here's the thing. There's 2 things to remember. We're going to look for body language. I'll tell you about that in a second.